Who says you can't win during the bye week because the Panthers' path to the playoffs just got a whole lot simpler? We'll break it all down right here on Locked On Panthers.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, the part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and yes, of course, Friday, your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching the show right here on YouTube and listening to wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Panthers is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. And the Panthers just wrapped up their Week 14 bye, and what a Sunday it was for the Carolina Panthers, as down in Tampa, Florida, not Tampa Bay, but Tampa, Florida, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers fall to the New Orleans Saints, meaning that Tampa is 7-6, top of the NFC South, and right there with them are your Carolina Panthers, also at 7-6 with 4 games left to play here in 2025. What else could you ask for as a Panthers fan than to be in this spot? Full control of your playoff fate. You got New Orleans on Sunday, Tampa at home, which could be, I'm going to go over the playoff stakes here momentarily, could be the biggest game here in Uptown Charlotte in a decade. That's how important that game may be for the Panthers in 2 weeks' time. Then you host Seattle at home the week after that, and then down in Tampa for what potentially, depending upon how things play out over the next couple weeks, could be a primetime game on Sunday Night Football on NBC. We'll see how that all happens. Panthers hoping to get some guys back after the bye. Jaycee Horn was concussion protocol. Is he back to play? Cade Mays missed the last 2 games with ankle injury. Robert Hunt, maybe he'll come back. We'll talk about that. And just let's all be thankful for the opportunity ahead for this organization and for the fun times that could be had here in December and quite possibly in January as well. But let's go ahead and get into some NFC South title scenarios. The first time, really, I've gotten a chance to do this. A couple of years ago, 2022, there was that de facto NFC South title game in Tampa where very clearly all Carolina had to do was win that game, and they would have won the division, whether they won the next week or not against the Saints, which they did in walk-off fashion. But this is really going into a month, the first time I really looked at it in the final month of the season and got an opportunity to talk about different scenarios for a division crown for the Panthers. So Tampa, they have dropped 4 out of their last 5 games. They are not in a good way at all, including losing on Sunday at home in a rainstorm against New Orleans Saints. They are now 7-6, like the Carolina Panthers, which has them tied atop the NFC South. Tampa has won the tiebreaker at this point in time. I'll go over why that's the case and why that may be a bad thing for the Panthers momentarily. But scenario number 1, the cleanest way for the Panthers to win the division is not even to win the rest of their games, not just beat New Orleans and beat Tampa twice and beat Seattle. The clearest way to win the division is to just sweep the Bucs. You can lose New Orleans, you can lose to Seattle, but as long as you win those 2 games against Tampa, you'll be 9-8. They could be 9-8, but it won't mean a doggone thing because you have the head-to-head. So that is the simplest way for them to go to the playoffs this year. Scenario number 2, Carolina needs to win against New Orleans, beat Seattle, and split one of those 2 games against Tampa, and then have Tampa lose to Atlanta or Miami, because that would then have Carolina at 10-7, and it would have Tampa at 9-8. So that is another simple way. And looking at the Dolphins recently, they've won 4 straight games. They're kind of in the playoff picture in the AFC just ever so quietly, and they're going to decide who goes to the playoffs this year in the AFC, as they still have Pittsburgh, they have Cincinnati, they have New England, and they can decide who even wins the NFC South, as they have Tampa in a couple of weeks' time. So scenario number 2 is split with Tampa, beat New Orleans, beat Seattle, and have Tampa either lose to Atlanta this upcoming Sunday or against Miami in a couple weeks' time. And there you go. Scenario number 3. This is where things get a little bit more complicated for the Panthers. Tampa, currently atop the division because of common opponent tiebreaker. It's first head-to-head, which they don't have right now. Then it's division record, which they're both at 2-1. And then after that, it's common opponents. The only common opponents that the Panthers and Bucs have both played, aside from obviously their divisional opponents, are the Jets, the Niners, the Pats, the Bills, and the Cardinals. Now, both teams beat the lowly New York Jets because it's the Jets. Tampa was able to beat the 49ers. Carolina, of course, lost to them on Monday night a couple weeks ago. Both of them lost to the Patriots. Both of them lost to the Bills. Carolina lost to the Cardinals in week 2, and Tampa beat Arizona. So looking at their 2-1 records, both in the division, and then the other common opponents against the Jets, 49ers, the Patriots, the Bills, and the Cardinals, Carolina right now is 3-5. While Tampa is sitting at 5-3. So they have a 2-game advantage. And if you look at the 2 remaining games against common opponents left, the Seahawks still play Carolina. Tampa's already beat them. Miami, Carolina's already beat. Tampa plays them in a couple weeks' time. Tampa, if you count the Seattle win, already has 6 wins against non-divisional common opponents so far this season. Or counting the division opponents, they have 6 common opponent victories already. While Carolina, counting the Miami win, only has 4. So it's going to be a tough road to hoe for the Panthers to win that tiebreaker. Like if Carolina beats New Orleans and splits of Tampa, and they both end up 4-2 in the division, and Tampa beats Atlanta and splits of Carolina, they're going to have the common opponent tiebreaker with the win against Miami, with them both being 10-7. And honestly, even if they don't beat Miami, which, I mean, they're going to have to in this situation, they're going to get the common opponent because Tampa would end up being 9-4, while Carolina will be 7-6. So you look at the final 4 weeks of Carolina, wins against New Orleans, beats Tampa the first time, beats Seattle, then loses to Tampa. Tampa wins against Atlanta on Sunday. They lose Carolina the first time, beat Miami, beat Carolina. They're going to win the common opponent tiebreaker. If Carolina beats New Orleans and splits of Tampa to be 4-2 in the division, Tampa loses to Atlanta, then that's a way they can win the division because Tampa would be 3-3 and Carolina would win the tiebreaker that way. But as far as a common opponent's tiebreaker, if they're both 9-8, 10-7, 8-9, which is not even possible, Tampa's going to win that way. So quite simply, root for Atlanta this upcoming Sunday. And I know that's hard for you to do, but obviously you want to go to the playoffs. And the best way to do that is to watch the Buccaneers lose on Sunday, because if that happens, scenario number 4, and I had to double check, I had to triple check, I had to quadruple check this just to make sure this was real. If Tampa loses this upcoming Sunday against the Falcons and Carolina beats New Orleans, Tampa would then be 7-7 and Carolina would be 8-6. If the Panthers then beat the Bucs at home, they would be 9-6 and Tampa would be 7-8. And not only that, the Panthers would be sitting at 4-1 in the division. And Tampa would have not 1, not 2, but 3 division losses. You do the math. That would mean that Carolina, no matter what happened in the final 2 weeks against Seattle at home and at Tampa Bay, the Panthers would be division champions based off of the divisional tiebreaker, not head-to-head, but the division record. The best record Tampa could have in that scenario would be 3-3. While Carolina, the worst record they could have would be 4-2. So I say again, if Tampa loses to Atlanta this Sunday, Carolina handles their business down in New Orleans, and then they come back next week in Uptown Charlotte at Bank of America Stadium and win that game at 9-6 with 2 weeks left to go into regular season, they can pack it on in, because you know what? They would be division champs. And looking at the rest of the NFC, they're not getting the 1 seed. They're probably not getting the 2 seed either, or the 3 seed. They would have the 4 seed wrapped up, which means, hey, guys, take a break. Don't play against Seattle. Don't play against Tampa. Get to 9-8, get to 10-7, get to 11-6. Who cares? You've already won the division. So 2 straight wins here and 2 straight Tampa losses, and their division champs for the first time in a decade. It's that simple. So my hope, I kind of would like for it to go to week 18 to have the build-up and to have Sunday Night Football because it'd be weird. It'd be really, I've talked about plenty of pointless games at the end of the season for Carolina, largely because the Panthers were out of it. I have never even dreamed of talking about 2 straight weeks of pointless games because they had already wrapped up the division. What a time that would be if that actually happened. So again, I looked at it so many times like, is that true? Okay, so wait, if Tampa loses 2 in a row, Carolina wins 2 in a row, and then Carolina, they would have 2 division wins already at 2-1. That'd be 4-1. Tampa loses twice. I had to write it down. I had to triple check people. I just had to put it through ChatGPT. Am I right by saying this? And I'm right. Carolina, 2 more wins. Tampa, 2 more losses in a row the next 2 weeks. And the Panthers are division champions for the first time since 2015. It's that close, y'all. You can almost taste it. They're back this week at practice, and there's a few things I'm going to be watching out for this week ahead of the game against New Orleans. I'll tell you that here in just a moment on Locked on Panthers. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. If you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every time. It's not just something you wrap, it's a way to share memories because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame of photos before gifting it, so when they plug it in, the memories are already there. No apps to figure out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. Aura is the perfect gift for grandparents, parents, newlyweds, anyone who loves photos. Get endless uploads of pictures and 30-second videos through the Aura app. It's a holiday gift that actually gets used, not forgotten in a drawer. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off of Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter by using promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code LOCKEDON. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. 2 more wins. 2 more wins in a row. 2 more Bucs losses. And the Carolina Panthers are division champs. But before they get there, a few things I'm going to be watching out for this week as they lead up to the game down in New Orleans. First thing is just the injury report. Where do things stand with some important players like Jaycee Horn, who missed last Sunday against the Rams? That awesome upset victory against LA. He missed with a concussion, and not really a surprise that he missed that game considering Monday night went in concussion protocol, short week. It was going to happen. So JC had that week off. Great thing is you still got the win without him. He had this past week to get ready to go. Was talking to some people, sound like he was working out. So he's going to be fine. He'll be out there down in New Orleans. 4:25 is the time for the game, Eastern time. Cade Mays missed the last 2 weeks of an ankle. Kind of surprising little thing that happened. It was a Friday right before the travel date to San Francisco, where apparently, I guess he had something happen to him. I guess he got tweaked, and Dave Canales said, hey, we got to shut him down. And he could not play in that game, was not ready to go last week either, as Panthers had their 10th different starting combination in 13 games. So where did things stand with Cade Mays? And that's somebody asked me last week on the weekly Wednesday mailbag, what will the offensive line combination be when Cade is back out there? Will they just ride with Austin Corbett and Jay Kurhan and the hot hand, the supposed hot hand after that win against the Rams? My guess is, and I've been off on this before because quite honestly, I can't really read Dave as far as this goes with the offensive line this season. The 2 things I know for sure are, well, 3 things. If Ike Ekwonu's healthy, he's playing left tackle. If Damian Lewis is healthy, he's playing left guard. And if Taylor Moton's healthy, he's playing right tackle. After that, I'm just guessing. It's an educated guess, but how educated really am I on this thing? Oh, well, decently educated. But I'm just thinking that the way it will happen is that Cade, and Dave's been pretty straight up about this, has won and earned that center spot. So when he's healthy, he'll be the starting center. Right guard's the question. When Chandler Zavala was out for a week, Austin Corbett filled in. Then the next week when they were both healthy, Chandler Zavala, for whatever reason, started against Atlanta. I was surprised by that. Bad decision because Chandler missed his blocking assignment, got Bryce Young hurt, but it was also maybe a good thing because we got to see how gutsy Bryce can be and that he can win a game on one leg, which he did that Sunday in an overtime victory against the Falcons, the best performance of his career. But I didn't understand that. Now, Chandler's now on IR with a calf injury. Likely, I would expect he's probably not going to be back for the season. And then you look at Jake Kurhan, who started at right guard against the Rams, and Dave said that, yeah, he had a solid game, but there were some missed assignments, which is to be expected by a guy who signed up of Arizona's practice squad back in like week 4, compared to a guy who's a veteran in Austin Corbett. And you look back at what happened, and really the reason why Austin won the starting center job was, well, you look at the contract, how much more money they were going to give him if he won the job, but also his experience and his leadership in that locker room and in that position room. They like the vocal leadership that Austin has. They like the fact that he had been an experienced player, and it's not Cade Mays' fault. He hasn't been in the league as long as Austin Corbett. That's just a matter of time and age. He's not old enough to have been in the league as long as Austin, but they leaned on the experience over the youth and maybe even upside there that they had in Cade. And once Austin got hurt and Cade played well and Austin came back, they stuck with Cade. So my expectation is that when Cade is back, they will stick with him. Now, right guard could be really simply figured out if Robert Hunt is good to go. Now, last Monday, when we spoke to Dave Canales, and we'll talk to him again on Monday afternoon, coming up here on the 8th, he told us that Robert Hunt was not there yet, but he did tell us about a month ago that the bye week, right after that, that could be the potential time to open up his window to return to play. And certainly, if Carolina wins the next 2 weeks and Tampa loses this upcoming Sunday, and of course loses to Carolina, and they clinch the division, that would open up a possibility where, okay, you have 2 games that do not matter, and then you have that playoff game. So that would give Robert Hunt 3 more weeks to get ready to go, or really an extra week to be able to go, as you would have that playoff game. And talking to my buddy who works on Monday Night Football, he was telling me that in all likelihood that Carolina would be the team hosting Monday Night Football for that playoff game, because that used to be that early Sunday or Saturday afternoon ESPN game. That was like the worst playoff game, which I know it sucks to hear that, but like the 4 or 5 matchup in the NFC, like the NFC South champion versus whoever the 5 seed is, it sounds like that's going to be the Monday night game. So get ready for some Monday Night Football and for even longer time to sit here in anticipation of what's going to happen with this Panthers team. But Rob Hunt, that's one thing I'm going to ask about if someone doesn't get to it before I do on Monday, just what his status is. Another thing I'm watching out for this week, and just really wanting to hear, is focus. Go back to after that game against New Orleans. The last time Carolina had a high coming off a win against Green Bay on the road. They took him lightly. Ike Ekwonu said this after the game, saying, quote, "We just weren't locked into the small details." And, a couple of guys spoke about it. Coach spoke about it throughout the week, and you just can't get days back. If you have a tough day on Thursday, tough day on Friday or whatever, you can always look forward, but you can't get that day back. So that preparation or lack thereof is going to add up. And unfortunately, that just cultivated to what we saw today. They took the Saints lightly. That is just a long way to say we didn't take those dudes seriously. Why we didn't do it, I don't know. And I was laughing afterwards because that evening there was somebody who was tweeting. I was like, "You're the Carolina Panthers. How dare you have the audacity to take anybody in the National Football League lightly?" And that's what they did. They did. And a lot of guys, they copped to it, that the team just wasn't focused. Maybe it was only a couple of guys, but that's all it takes. You're only as strong as your weakest link, as they say. And they weren't ready to go. So I want to know about the focus. And this is a team that since week 3, when they won 30-0 against Atlanta, it's been win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. The yo-yo nature of this team has been exhilarating, and it's also been frustrating as hell, I can imagine, as being a fan of this team this year. It can't happen anymore. And when I was talking to Austin Corbett in the locker room after the game against the Rams, and we were just talking about the position that they sat in, that is very clear what they have to do. It's right there in front of them. They have full control of whether they're in the playoffs or not. They don't need this team to lose or that team to lose unless they lose some games. All they got to do is win their Final Four. That was the case back then. All they have to do now is, hell, maybe just win the next 2. And if Tampa loses on Sunday, they're good. Or just take care of the 2 games against Tampa Bay, and then you're in that way. But what they have to stop doing, as Austin told me, is they can no longer have that off Sunday. They can't go from beating LA to laying an egg against New Orleans. And when you looked at how Tyler Shuck played, and I have to apologize to Saints fans on Thursday when I do the crossover Thursday with Ross Jackson, because I was very dismissive of Tyler Shuck before that game against New Orleans a couple weeks ago. And look, I watched the guy. Like, hell, I remember when he was committed to Larry Fedora at North Carolina. So maybe a little bit of me is salty that back in 2016, this guy was committed to Carolina and then he flipped to Oregon. I think there was somebody else he was committed to before. I think it might have been like Arizona State or something like that. But then he goes to Oregon. He's there with Mario Cristobal. He's no good there, goes to Texas Tech, gets injured all the time, then goes to Louisville. And, well, you look at it, a lot better than Jack Plummer, and sure as hell a lot better than Miller Moss, who they just had this season. So, hey, okay, he's a good player. He's an NFL caliber quarterback. Certainly a guy, as we've seen, you can win games with in the league. He's already proven that as a rookie. He's 25, 26 damn years old. So I would really hope that this early on in his career, he could do that. So yeah, Shuck's a decent player, man. And that's a team that they have been competitive all year. They may not be good, but they're not giving up. And that's the thing about the league that I really appreciate is that those teams, these guys have the integrity where they're not just going to mail it in. We can talk about, oh, this team needs a tank and all that. Players aren't going to tank. Cam Jordan's in the last stages of his career. This is going to be like his last 4 games as a Saint. That guy is trying to ruin the Bucs, ruin the Panthers season. That's what he's trying to do. He knows good and damn well they can't win the division. What he knows, he wants to prevent either Carolina or Tampa from doing it. Atlanta, who they hate the most, they're not going to be in it anyway, so they want to find a way to ruin somebody's season over the next couple of weeks. They think they did it this past Sunday. They want to do it again next Sunday at home. So where will be the focus, the attention to detail? Will it be there this week for Carolina? Those are the 2 things primarily I'm looking out for as they head into what is a massive game on the road against New Orleans Saints, where they can take sole possession of first place in the NFC South and set up a win and in scenario the week after that at home against Tampa Bay. One thing, though, I want all y'all to do is soak it in and enjoy the ride. We'll talk more about that here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch. Finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You pull up the app and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and compare seat views. Prices include fees up front, which I love. No last-second surprises at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets in every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time today. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. Live spreads and money lines just instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. And you know what? Let's go over the Game Time right now, and let's take a peek at division winner odds. And if you go over the Game Time, they're still being haters. Plus 250 for Carolina, minus 310 for Tampa Bay. I don't know. If I were you, I would be right in the middle of the action this season, visiting FanDuel.com, placing live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. One final segment here on this Monday episode of Locked On Panthers. I just want everybody to enjoy the ride over the next 4 weeks. Just think about how much you have been through over the last 5+ years as a Panther fan. 2017 was the last time this team went to the playoffs, losing a heartbreaker in New Orleans, a game where Devin Funchess, Kalen Clay, and Britton Burson were Cam Newton's targets, and that was maybe the best performance Cam ever had in a Panthers uniform, even having Carolina in position to where if Devin Funchess just could have maneuvered his body and located the ball, Carolina wins that day on the road. And also tough missed field goal there by Graham Gano. You go to 2018, you have the hope that this team can be a playoff team. You're 6-2. Cam Newton's looking like an MVP candidate as they take the Bucs behind the woodshed, and then his body falls apart. The game against Seattle, the game against New Orleans on Monday night, just a heartbreak of how that season ended. But there was still hope. You still had Cam. You still had Luke. You still had guys on that team that had won before, and there was still a chance that things get fixed under Ron, who in 2019 was going to take over play calling at the behest of David Tepper. They were going to go to a 3-4, which meant Gerald McCoy, come over from your division rival, Tampa. Hey, Bruce Irvin, come over from Seattle, who had been a rival of the Panthers over the last couple of seasons, and let's get this thing back on the tracks, which it appeared to be the case up until week 3 of the preseason when Cam broke his foot there in New England. And after that, he wasn't the same guy against the Rams. He was not the same guy, clearly, in week 2 on that Thursday night game against Tampa. As in short yardage situations, it wasn't Cam Newton. It was Christian McCaffrey, who was just a few inches shy of getting that first down, potentially winning that game against the Bucs that night. So 0-2, season feels over. Cam's done for the time being. In comes Kyle Allen, who has a hell of a day in Arizona. Doesn't have a great day against Houston, but the defense of McCaffrey get it done. They win another one, and then they go out there and beat up on the Bucs again in London, 4-2 heading to the bye. People feeling good. There was later on the McCaffrey somersault against Tennessee. There was a heartbreak against Green Bay in the snow, and then Rivera getting fired and all the embarrassment that came with Perry Fuel as the 4 weeks interim here in Carolina. The ill-fated start for Will Grier in Indianapolis. Dante Jackson getting benched, which did nobody any good, and just a whimper of a season for Carolina at the end. But after that, Ron was gone. The hope was David Tepper was going to build this organization into the image that he wanted to be, that it had been a mom and pop shop under Jerry Richardson. They'd be a true Fortune 500 Wall Street type of business with big bad Dave Tepper at the helm. He said it could take a little bit of time, that Rome wasn't built in a day, and some short-term suffering for long-time success. Just be patient. And they went out there and hired Matt Rule. His smock had won at Baylor, a program that was just in utter ruins, left by Art Briles and the detestable human being that he is. And Matt Rule came in, and he thought about coaching Cam, said, yeah, I'll coach Cam. But then, sponsored by Honeywell, they had the drama of the offseason, whether they wanted Cam and what's going on with his shoulder. And David Tepper saying, I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor. Who's a doctor? We can't figure out what's going on. And eventually, once all the money in free agency had been dried up, they allowed Cam to seek a trade. And there he went without a trade, and eventually signing in New England to coach or to play under Bill Belichick. Carolina instead with Teddy Bridgewater. And it was good for a little bit there in 2020. But then Teddy couldn't get it done. 8 straight times in that season with a chance to either take the lead or tie the game. He couldn't do it in the fourth quarter, and Carolina went out there and they lost. All right, well, 2021, let's try again. Try to get a quarterback. They were very, very interested in Matthew Stafford. Thought they could get it done. Made an offer to Detroit, but then once upon a time in Cabo, Matthew Stafford fell in love with Sean McVay and made the best decision of his life, winning a Super Bowl and quite possibly winning another one here in 2025, and Carolina missed out there. But then they sent a 2nd, 4th, and a 6th for a reclamation project in Sam Darnold, who at the beginning looked like it was going to work. Beat New York. He found a way to also win that game against New Orleans. And even though McCaffrey went down, Jaycee Horn went down in Houston on Thursday night, you were 3-0. But that was a big problem that McCaffrey went down. And the offensive line injuries, 13 different starting combinations, 17 games. Then Darnold gets hurt. And what do you know? They call an old friend, Cam Newton. Hey, Cam, can you come back and help us out? Can you come back and can you save us, get us there to the playoffs? And it felt good for a moment there against Washington when that stadium was alive once again on 800 South Main Street. But then it was 5 straight games they lost to Cam Newton as starting quarterback. Not Cam's fault, but 5 straight games they couldn't win. And then you had to sit there and watch Superman be reduced to the backup to Sam Darnold at his stage of career. And the season once again ended in heartbreak. 2022. All right, Matt Rule. Let's see if we can have it happen. You try to get rid of Sam Darnold, try to go after the nasty man Deshaun Watson. Didn't work out. You drafted Matt Corral. False idol he was. And eventually Baker Mayfield was their guy. Baker came in, didn't work out. Sam was already injured. They tried PJ, wouldn't let him throw the ball across the line of scrimmage. Steve Wilkes comes in as the head coach. They trade Christian McCaffrey. And you're just thinking, all right, well, here we go. Let's get ready for the draft. But then they find something. They run the ball. Chuba, Deontay Foreman, they're getting it done. The defense is playing inspired ball behind their coach who had been your DC back during the glory days of Ron and Cam and Luke and all of your friends. But they were just too short there in 2022, losing that Week 17 game in Tampa. As you know, Steven get the job. Frank Reich came in. They drafted Bryce Young, and too many cooks in the kitchen as they were trying to get Bryce to be ready to go while not really getting him fundamentally prepared to play in the NFL. 2-15, a disaster, which then led to Dave Canales and what happened last year, Bryce being benched and Andy coming in and it being about Andy. But then eventually Bryce got the opportunity after Andy Dalton's injury. And then you saw how he played in the last half of last season. It made you think maybe, just maybe, the Panthers can get back. And there's been times this year where it's been bumpy, where Bryce hasn't looked great, and you question whether Dave should be the play caller, whether Bryce can be the answer. And you looked at the defense and wondered, have they really gotten that much better? Is it time to fire Ejiro Rivera? But here they sit after all this team has been through, everything you've been through, everything this city has been through. Here they are on the doorstep of finally breaking through and being back. So enjoy it, man. Enjoy it. Because it's not often it always comes, as you know. I hope that you have finally, for people out there who have complained about Cam, calling him a cross-dresser, complained about Jake, I hope you finally understand just how good you had it when you had a guy who every single week you knew was going to go out there and play high-level football and bleed for this city. I hope you understand that. I hope you're appreciative of what John Fox did, what Dom Capers did, and he started off here, what Ron Rivera did. Because I had people saying, oh, I don't want Steve Wilkes to be Ron Rivera 2.0. Oh, damn, you don't want to go to the playoffs for 5 years? You don't want to go back to a Super Bowl? You don't want that? 3 straight division titles? Oh, you'd rather have Frank Reich and have him get fired after 11 games. That's what you'd rather have. I just hope people who like to complain about all those things, who falsely anointed Kyle Allen, the damn franchise, I hope those people sit back and finally are just damn thankful for this team being in a position where they can be a playoff team and can look back on all the greats that have come and gone and realize, you know what? I didn't give those guys enough credit. Those guys were hell of a players, and damn, don't I miss them and wish they could have been around here, and I hope they come back in a few weeks' time if indeed this team gets the job done. So enjoy it, y'all. Enjoy it. 4 more weeks, potentially just 2 more wins Carolina needs to be NFC South Division champions here in 2025. But that's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours truly, Julian Council. Again, y'all subscribe and follow the show for free over on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter and over on Blue Sky at Julian Council, where I'll be back with y'all on Wednesday answering your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions. In the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole. As always, keep pounding. I'll be back with y'all on Tuesday as we react to what Dave Canales had to say following the Panthers bye week and go over some more things ahead of the Panthers' monumental game on the road against the New Orleans Saints.